fuel transfer pump setup. It's just a 12-volt pump here and a filter. It's great for, you know, doing fuel pumps on the K-bikes or lawnmowers or, you know, weed whackers, whatever you're working on. Although I tend not to use it on two-stroke or diesel, even though this is probably a diesel pump. And I have the filter downstream of the pump just because if the pump starts to deteriorate over time, I don't want it injecting that into the fuel. So I put the filter up here. It's the last stop before the fuel tank. This is the outlet hose here. These are just these electrical caps are just these wire nuts are just for so it doesn't leak. And then this is the inlet side, and I put that heavy screw on it because that way it just keeps the hose wherever you put the hose. Hose doesn't want to back out. It's got a little you know, adapter, lighter adapter for 12 volt, and then this is the part that goes to the battery. Just clip it on the battery, and it's easy to connect. And put a big diode in line if you want reverse current protection, but it works great. It's easy, it works quickly, it pumps out. It pumped out, I don't know, this tank before I started this job in probably 5 minutes. So this black insulator, this plastic insulator, separates from the upper plastic piece when you remove those 5 nuts on the outside. And then these two pieces will separate. And when you put the insulator on the new pump, this is the old pump, but when you put it on, there's a channel on the inside that runs around the inside of the black insulator that aligns with this flange. And there's also a vertical bit in the plastic behind this plastic piece here that aligns with this bit. So once you have the both axes aligned where they're supposed to be with the black insulator, then you can put the plastic piece on, the upper plastic piece here, and torque it down to factory specs here. You know, torque this upper plastic bit down with the 5 nuts. I would use the book value because apparently this thing's pretty expensive and probably rivals the cost of a Formula 1 engine to replace, so I would strongly advise not to over torque it. And once that's done, then this hose can be tightened down, the screen can be put on, and you can drop it back in the tank and you know, make the electrical connections. The large one on the left, the negative, is 8mm, and the one on the right, the positive lead, is the positive terminal is 7mm. So you can't mix them. Up. You can't get the polarity backwards. Okay, we're gonna put it in the tank now. So the pump's ready to go back in the tank. I like to make all the connections outside the tank. The large 8mm on the left is the negative, and the smaller 7mm is the positive. So I'm going to put the screen on. Once the screen's on, it'll be ready to put back into the tank, and I'll pick it up there. Okay, the pump's ready to go in now. The filter's on. The screen. Pump's in place. It's the power's torqued down. The hose is tightened, so it's ready to drop in. And I'm going to do that now, and I'll show you the fuel filter install once this is in and clipped in place. These 2 clips on either side have to get clipped in, and it'll be ready to plumb the fuel filter and be ready to gas up and take for a ride. Okay, the pump's installed, the hose is tight, all the connections are tight. The isolation mount in plastic is clipped in. I also installed the fuel filter, as you can see. And essentially the outlet of the fuel pump there, that hose, you know, the large black hose coming out of the top, that feeds the back of the filter. And then the filter moves the fuel from left to right, as indicated by the arrow, and then the high pressure fuel goes through the filter. The high pressure fuel from the pump goes through the filter, and then it gets onto the fuel rail there, and that goes off and feeds the injector lines. So it's good to go. I like to fill the pump up, or fill the fuel up just above the sump, so the pump will pick up some fuel. It'll pressurize the line. But I don't add any more fuel because I want to make sure that none of the lines are leaking and there's nothing bad going on. So I'll fill it up that high, pressurize it, check it, and then if there are no leaks, then I'll fill it up the rest of the way and take it for a ride. Okay, I've got the tank filled up slightly less than half, I think. This allows the sump to get fuel. It will just allow me to look at the lines and make sure there's no leaks. Anything weird going on. So let's turn the key on. And what we got? We're about, yeah, so a little less than half. And I'm just going to prime this a couple of times, just make build pressure. And I don't see any leaks. I don't see any leaks at all. Looks good. Looks like the return. That's from the fuel return. Yeah. So it seems to be holding pressure. It all looks good. I'm going to put the cap on. I'll fill it up the rest of the way and I'll put the cap on. Got plenty of fuel. Pump's quiet. It's definitely much quieter than the last one. You can hear it, but it's much quieter than the last pump. All right, I think that's it. Let's go for a ride.